Whatever type of site you have, it is certain that a large proportion of your visitors will come from Google search results. Search engines are now the yellow pages of previous years, and through them we find what we need within seconds. But how can we ensure that our site will come up in the search engine's results page, SERPs? To begin with, this is not a simple process. However, it is something that you can achieve if you follow the right steps towards optimizing your site for the purpose of search, also known as Search Engine Optimization, or SEO for short. Before we go into search engine optimization techniques, we may want to look at the philosophy that lies behind it. Many people have connected SEO with dubious techniques of deceiving the search engines, a combination of tricks to make a site appear on the first page of Google without that site really deserving it. This is known as black hat SEO. Search engines, especially Google, have invested billions of dollars in order not to fall for such optimization tricks that were usual some years ago. Combining highly sophisticated algorithms and artificial intelligence, Google can now understand very easily when a site is trying to cheat. So what does it mean to have a search engine optimized site? It means mainly to have a site that is worthy of ranking highly in search engine results. This is the foundation of SEO. All our other actions should build on this principle. But why have search engines invested so much to identify sites that deserve a higher ranking? The reason is simple. If search engines cannot identify and display at the top of their results page those sites that actually have the most to offer to searchers, then people will stop using them to look for information. The reason why we choose Google is precisely because it succeeds in finding pages that are the most relevant to us and provide to us what we're searching for. If the search engines cannot do this because of some cunning webmasters having bypassed the algorithms they use, then they obviously have no reason to exist. One of the first SEO methods ever implemented was the excessive use of keywords. If you were to look up the keyword remote control in Google, it would find websites literally filled with repetitions and mentions of that word. Fortunately, this strategy can no longer be used. Although you will find many tools to measure the keyword density of your site, it is advisable not to keyword stuff your pages. Google can now understand if you use natural language in your texts on page, so it's not worth giving special attention to the issue by filling your page with keywords. However, if you follow these tips, the results you get will certainly be better and Google approved. Include the word you are attempting to rank for in the URL of the page. For example, if you are aiming to rank for the keyword remote control, make sure you have a URL that looks like this. Include the focus keyword that you're interested in on the title of your page. Rather than continually repeat the keyword that you are targeting, use synonyms and related words. For example, remote control, handheld control, push button control, TV, sofa, DVD, etc. The use of synonyms and related key terms shows Google that our page is indeed relevant to a specific topic, and also gives us the possibility to rank for multiple keywords other than focus on our keyword. Optimize your title tag. The title tag determines the way your title appears in Google. It is the first and most important element of your page and will determine how a user sees your page. The form should be the source of our HTML page is. There are differing opinions on what size the title tag should be. Although theoretically you can use up to 120 characters, it's not a good idea to reach such numbers. Google usually shows up to 55 characters, including spaces between words. The meta description of a page is a description that gives the user a brief understanding of the contents of the page. While the title tag of a page is advisable not to exceed 55 characters, the meta description of a page can be much longer. 1 or 2 sentences to a short paragraph, not exceeding 155 characters. Like the title tag, the meta description is placed within the head tag of the HTML code of our page. Although, as we mentioned, the meta description can be larger than the title tag, it should not exceed 155 characters. Avoid using the same meta description across the whole of your site, or even on multiple pages. All pages must be unique for the user to understand the page they are being taken to. A good tool to use for meta description writing is Google Webmaster Tools, which has a special section that will give you enough information specifically about each page's meta description. If the words are either too short or long, or if it appears too many times, etc., it will let you know. It should be noted that meta descriptions are no longer considered as a ranking factor for search engines. The main reason we ensure meta descriptions are well written and relate to the page they are used for is to help users understand what our site is about when they see it on the results page. In addition, meta descriptions are used by Facebook and Google+ when someone posts a link. Having written a proper description of our page increases the chances of people visiting our site through this link on these platforms. Choosing the keywords on which to focus our efforts is not a simple task. The two methods we can use are: Option 1. To choose keywords that have a high search volume. For example, the word LED. The obvious advantage to this option is that if our SEO efforts bring results, we will have a huge amount of visits to our site. However, as one would expect, the greater the volume of searches for a keyword, the higher the competition. This means that the effort, time and cost we will need for search engine optimization for such a keyword would be correspondingly high. Option 2. The second option for keyword selection would be to focus on less popular keywords. These are called long-tail keywords. For example, car, LED UK, or something more specific such as where can I buy, LED, car, London. Although the visits and search volume we can expect from these keywords will be less, we can expect faster results with less effort. However, there is nothing to prevent us from focusing on more than one of these types of keywords. There is also another advantage in choosing long-tail keywords. As a rule, they are much more focused and allow people who know exactly what they're looking for to find what they need. These people are therefore much more likely to make a purchase because they have already settled on what they need and why they are searching for it. Let us look once more at the examples previously mentioned. When someone searches for the word LED, we don't know much about what she's looking for. It can be a variety of things. Since there are no other words for us to associate this keyword with, we can assume the searcher is one of the following: someone who wants to learn more about this type of lighting, someone trying to see if it suits her to replace the bulbs in the house with LED, a student seeking information for an essay, someone who does market research, somebody interested in Led Zeppelin. Alternatively, someone who searched for LED, car, London knows very well what she's looking for. She probably has already decided that she will have LED lights put in her car, and she's trying to find a store that is close to her home to make a purchase. Therefore, the focus on long-tail keywords will not only be less expensive and require less time, but it is also more profitable for your business. But how can we identify the keywords that are worth investing in? The answer is simple: with Google Keyword Planner. By going to the following address, we see the choice. After you click on this option, you will see the screen below, which makes up the keyword of interest, LED in this case. And then you may choose from the options to target a specific country or language of interest, Greece and Greek for our example. By pressing the download button, we will see a picture like this. This table shows keywords associated with the word LED we used for our example, and how many monthly searches each one of these related keywords has. Analysing the table, we can identify keywords that have a relatively small number of searches, but where the competition that exists for them is proportionately smaller. So it may be in our interest to invest in them as we can get results with relatively little effort. Having decided which keywords we will try to rank for, we must now start working towards our goal. The techniques available in order to do so are truly countless. Some of them are approved by Google, some are not, and some lie on a grey area. In any case, if we want Google to take our site seriously, it must be full of content. It is no coincidence that the title of this chapter is Content is King. For Google to consider that a site is worth its attention, it must be full of good quality content. In other words, many articles relevant to the subject that the site is about. Obviously, these articles should not be poorly written or too concise, nor should they be a mere reproduction of other documents that have been already published on other websites. The truth is that the creation and publication of original, high-quality texts is not easy, especially when we want at least a few dozen, or even several hundred of them, published on our site. Certainly it is something that costs money and will take time, so we should weigh up the expected benefits in relation to the expenditure required. In any case, we should remember this, that our articles must be of good quality and value to the person reading them. Our goal is not to write text to fool or outsmart the search engines, but to provide useful information to our readers. In other words, to create articles that the reader will find interesting. We want our site's visitors to have reasons to save the articles or guides that we are featuring, or send them to their friends and colleagues, or post them on Facebook. Moreover, if we publish useful and interesting stuff, other sites will link to our pages, and thus we will be getting inbound links. As links to our site increase, the number of people who click on them will also start increasing. Moreover, these links will help us with regards to SEO. The main way in which search engines evaluate the quality of a site is based on the number of links it has from other sites. When a site links to another website, this means that it considers it interesting and trustworthy. In other words, it's like vouching for it. The more such vouching a site has, the more serious and reliable it is considered in the eyes of Google. Although each and every link counts, it is more important if we get that link from a page that has content similar to ours. It's also important that sites that link to our site have other sites linked to them. For example, if our website is about LED lighting, a link from a site that is also about lighting or any kind of LED technology will have more weight than a link from a site which is about gardening or fishing. Whilst it is essential to ensure that our site has good quality content, unfortunately it is not enough. In order to rank with Google, a site should also be user-friendly. Although the concept of a user-friendly site is something that involves many parameters, here we will focus on the thing that Google seems to consider as the most important, the speed of a site. When talking about the speed of a site, we refer, of course, to how fast it loads. Although now most people have very fast connections, it has been observed that if a page delays, even slightly, to open, this makes people feel discontent and impatient. For example, according to an Akamai Technology survey conducted in 2009, 40% of visitors to a site will abandon the page if it does not load within 3 seconds. Considering that in 2009 the public was not used to the high internet speeds that are now the norm, we can assume that users today expect sites' load time to be dramatically less than 3 seconds. In any case, Google has explicitly stated that it considers the speed of a site to be an important factor as to how high it will display on its results page. But how can we make our site as quick as possible? Unfortunately, this is not a simple task. Ideally, the speed factor has to be taken into consideration during the site's design and creation. The developer that creates a website should try to make it as lightweight as possible, so that it loads as fast as possible. Beyond that, there are some quick ways to make a site faster. For example, we can ensure that the size of uploaded images is as small as possible in kilobytes. Of course, one assumes that in order to reduce the kilobytes of an image, we also need to reduce its quality. However, this is something we can easily avoid. Using certain online services, we can greatly reduce the kilobytes of the picture on our site without sacrificing their quality. Another step in making our site faster is to use a content distribution network, otherwise known as CDN. A CDN is a network of servers that are located in different parts of the world. When someone visits a page, that network ensures that the files to be downloaded will be downloaded from the server geographically closest to the user. This service ensures the fastest possible delivery of these files to the user's device, and therefore helps our site to load as quickly as possible. However, speed is not the only benefit of using a CDN. In addition, your site becomes much more secure. The reason for this is that any attacks against our site will not be made directly to it, but to the CDN servers instead. These servers can easily manage such attacks, so it is almost impossible for attackers to influence your site even the slightest. Another advantage of using a CDN is to ensure that your website is always online. As we know, due to technical problems or maintenance, as a server cannot operate without rebooting, there will be some moments when our site will be down. A CDN makes sure that our site is not using just one server, but several. Even if some of them stop working at some point, the system will ensure that our visitors are directed to another server, and that our site will always be online. Of course, using a CDN costs money. However, there is a free option that we can use to get the same results without paying anything. This is Cloudflare. The advantage of Cloudflare is not only that it makes your site run faster from the server side, but at the same time it compresses the data it sends so your pages load even faster still. In addition, it has many other features which improve your site further and can make it even more user-friendly. In all cases, in order to check how fast your site is, you should use these three services. A sitemap is an XML file which represents an index of all the pages of our site. This index is not intended for human use, but is addressed to the search engines. Its role is to inform them of all pages that are uploaded, published on our site. In theory, the search engines find the pages that exist in every site by themselves. However, in reality, this is not always the case, and sometimes it may take long before they find them. Creating a sitemap is a method to quickly inform search engines about the content of our site. Most platform-generating sites like WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, etc. are capable of an almost automatic creation of a sitemap, and this is something that the person who will set up our site can easily do. Alternatively, you can make the sitemap yourself by going to https://www.xml-sitemaps.com. However, it's not enough to just create a sitemap. You must submit it to the search engines in order that they know where to look. For Google, you should visit the URL http://www.google.com/webmasters/tools/ and after creating an account, see the details below, you should follow these steps. From the left menu, select Direction, Map Site, Add Sitemap, and there we register the URL of the sitemap we created. For example, a similar process is used in Bing Webmaster Service. There you also submit the URL of the sitemap you created to enable Bing to find every page that exists on your site. Suppose we want to persuade Google that our site is relevant to the keyword shoes. As we have already explained, to do this we will use the word shoes in our text and our URL. But what else could we do on this issue? We can use appropriate photos. Most people believe that Google cannot tell what each photo depicts. This belief used to be true. However, using artificial intelligence and sophisticated systems, Google is gradually addressing this problem. Moreover, even if Google cannot see a picture as a human does, it doesn't mean that it does not know what it depicts. So what we must do is a Google search for the word shoes, and then see which images appear in Google's results. It is irrelevant whether the images we see really depict shoes or a sunset. What is important, though, is that for Google, these photos are associated with the keyword shoe. Using images that the search engine already considers relevant to a specific keyword, we're giving Google another clue that our site is indeed related to that keyword, i.e., shoes in this case. The same applies to videos. If we find interesting videos that Google shows on the results page of a certain keyword search, especially if these videos are on YouTube, which belongs to Google, we can embed them in our site. As we have already indicated, we should use images that Google already thinks are related to the keywords we want to rank for. But how should we name these images? And what else could we do to optimize how Google sees them? A simple solution is to rename our image files using names that match the keywords of interest. In other words, it's good to use synonyms. Also, never leave spaces in file names, and don't use underscores or any other symbols except the normal hyphen. Also, don't use comma or non-Latin characters. For example, characters of the Cyrillic or Greek alphabet. If the name of a file contains more than one word, we use normal dashes. For example, blue-ankle-boots.jpg. The alt attributes, ALT, deriving from the word alternative, are intended to inform the user and Google about the content of an image when, for any reason, the image does not load or if the page is displayed to visually impaired people. Here, unlike the file name, we describe in our natural language the content of the image. For example, in the picture with the file name brown-shoes.jpg, we use as the alt description pair of brown shoes. Ideally, all the pictures of our site should not only have the correct file names, but also the appropriate alt tag. Adding alt tags also increases the usability of a website, which certainly makes it more popular and increases the amount of links that it gets. Every detail counts. Attention! Under no circumstances should we fill the alt tags of our photos with keywords in order to try to fool Google. This will confuse Google, as well as the visually impaired, regarding what our page and images are about. At worst, we can be considered by Google as spammers, and instead of benefiting our site, we will harm it. Although it may seem beyond the scope of SEO, every site should have these three fundamental sections. The reason is this. It is unlikely that a trustworthy site would forget to include a policy to protect the privacy and personal information of its visitors. Moreover, it should also have a page with the terms and conditions that its visitors should follow. Finally, the contact page ensures that there is indeed an actual person or persons that run the site, and it is not a scam operation. All these are elements that Google evaluates. For, as we have already pointed out, Google's goal is to provide the best possible experience for its users. So it really wants to send them to a serious and trustworthy site that takes care of its visitors, protects them, and respects their privacy. Duplicate content is divided into two categories. The first has to do with articles that have been copied from another site. Google believes that sites should publish original content. Therefore, when it sees that a website reproduces content from other sites, it evaluates it as something negative. Fortunately, there is a way to bypass this problem. If we sincerely need to include material from other sites, we should always reference these sites as being the original source of that material. We should also add a link to the specific page that the material came from. This way, you are showing that your goal is not to mislead the user or Google, but to include valuable information for your visitors. The second category of duplicate content has to do with content that occurs more than once within our site. For example, text on regular pages versus the printer-friendly version of the same page. If these two versions, regular and printer-friendly, of a page have different URLs, they are considered as duplicates. This creates a problem for Google, because when it sees two or more pages with exactly the same content, it does not know which to display to the user. Therefore, it gets confused and it may not rank our page as well because of this. To solve this problem, we can add a link within our site that refers to a page called a canonical tag. This tag goes to the head of pages that have content that is repeated throughout our site in order to explain to Google which version should appear in the search results among all the versions it has crawled through. Rich snippets are additional lines of information that are visible below some Google search results. You may have seen, for example, underneath a search result, some review stars. Additional information, of course, is not limited to reviews. It can also be local information, prices, and even a site link search box. These are very useful additions to your site for two reasons. First, they allow the creator of a site to give the search engines more information about its content. This is something that the search engines take into consideration, as in this way they can give better and more targeted results to their users. Furthermore, rich snippets make our site stand out in search results. Even if our site is not appearing very high in Google's rankings, the fact that it has these extra elements draws the user's attention, thereby significantly increasing the clicks we get. In other words, we have click-through rate and therefore more traffic to our site. More information about rich snippets can be found in the web address. Although there are different ways to embed rich snippets on your website, the best is to use a plugin that has been manufactured specifically for this purpose. This, of course, is only possible if your site has been built using a platform such as WordPress, Drupal, or Joomla. If possible, use in the title tag of the page the keyword you are interested in. For example, if the keyword you want to rank for is plumber, it is better that the word plumber exists in the title tag. Make sure that both the main title, H1 tag, as well as the secondary title, H2 tag, of your post include the targeted keyword or a synonym. Include synonymous words of your target keyword within the text of your page. Also, add in different variations of this keyword, including words associated with the keyword you want to rank for. For example, if the target keyword is the word plumber, then make sure that in the text on your site there are keywords that relate to this trade, such as tube, drain, siphon, plunger, leak, etc. Besides synonyms and related words to your keyword, use the terms that appear on Google at the bottom of the search results. Use rich snippets whenever you can. The use of internal links is certainly not a new trend in SEO. This is perhaps the main reason why it's rarely mentioned as a method to improve our rankings on Google. However, it is an excellent SEO tool we can utilize. Internal links are links from one page of your site to another. First of all, you can and should use them to refer your visitors to other parts of your site where they can find useful information. If the keyword you are interested in ranking for is plungers, for example, chances are this word will be found in several of the pages of your site. So go to each of these pages and change the first occurrence of this word to a link to your home page or to the page where the visitor can find all available plungers of your store. The same can be done with the footer of your site. There you can also place a link to your home page or any relevant page that includes that keyword. Of course, if your site has very few pages and very few pieces of content, this practice may not be helpful. However, if your site is rich in content, you will definitely see significant differences in your Google rankings after using internal linking throughout your site. Although it is rarely utilized as it should be, Google Webmaster Tools is a very useful service in regards to the SEO of a website. Google Webmaster Tools is, as we understand from the name, a collection of online tools which aim to give each site owner a complete picture of the strengths and weaknesses of their site. Of course, the emphasis from Google is given to how each website can be more easily accessible, crawlable by search engines. However, these tools also illuminate other aspects of a site's health. Although anyone can open an account in Google Webmaster Tools, In order to have access to information that Google provides for each site through the service, you will have to verify that you are indeed its owner. Verification can be done in the following ways. Through the company which registered your domain, for example GoDaddy. The company may already be working with Google, and so the whole process is very simple. Otherwise, you can make some changes, entries to your domain DNS settings based on the instructions given to you by Google, by uploading a HTML file to the root folder of your site, by entering a meta tag within the HTML code of your home page. If you have installed Google Analytics, which you should have, you can connect your Webmaster Tools account with them and then select Confirmation in Google Analytics. You can also use the Google Tag Manager to verify your account. After completing the verification process, your site will now appear in the dashboard of Google Webmaster Tools. Site owners need to know what other sites link to theirs. Google Webmaster Tools helps us with this as well. To see links to our site, we need to click on Search Traffic and then go to the Links to Your Site option. There we will find details about which sites linked more to our website, who links the most, what pages get the most links, your most linked content, as well as the keywords that other sites use to link to ours, how your data is linked. As we have already pointed out, internal links are very important for the SEO of our site. Clicking Internal Links, we get an overview of which of our site's pages get the most links from other pages inside our site. The Search Analytics option is one of the most useful tools of the Google Webmasters platform. Using them, we get a pretty good idea of the keywords that people use to get into our site. Also, we can see the number of impressions, the number of clicks, click-through rates, and the average position, which is where our site is displayed in Google's search results, for each search in relation to each keyword. In some cases, it may be appropriate that a page of our site does not appear in Google search results. If there are indeed such pages, it is usually advisable to remove them completely. The reason being that even if Google does not show them, it is possible that someone could find them in other ways. However, if for some reason we cannot or do not want to remove them from our site, we have the possibility to request that they not appear when someone searches for something on Google. To do this, we want to go to Google Index option and then click on Remove URL. There we enter the pages we want to remove. In order for our site's contents to be included in Google's results, they need to be included in the Google Index. The Google Index is similar to an index in a library, which lists information about all the books the library has available. However, instead of books, the Google Index lists all the web pages that Google knows about. When Google visits your site, it detects new and updated pages and updates the Google Index. As seen in the picture, using the Webmaster Tools, we can check how many pages of our site are included in the Google Index. In other words, what percentage of our site Google has detected and therefore displays in the search engine results. By increasing the pages of our site, this number will be increased accordingly. Often, no matter how carefully we manage our site, there may be some pages erased by mistake or that do not appear for some reason we may not even be aware of. Although these should be identified by the developer of our site, often this is not the case. Therefore, Google Webmaster Tools lets us know of the errors that Google encountered while crawling our site. Bing, Microsoft's search engine, is not as popular as Google, and many people are unaware of Bing Webmaster Tools. This, of course, is a significant mistake. Using Bing Webmaster Tools can give you an advantage over your competitors by ensuring your site appears high on both Google and Bing results page. It is true that a large amount of information that Bing Webmaster Tools provide is identical to that of Google Webmaster Tools. Yet there are some options exclusive to Bing that may prove very useful. Undoubtedly, the most important function of Bing Webmaster Tools are the SEO reports. To see this section, click Reports and Data, Then click on the link to see the SEO reports. Here we can see if any of the pages of our site have a problem and what we can do to fix them. The inbound links option is similar to the links to your site tool that Google Webmaster Tools provide. However, in contrast to Google, Bing allows us to see much more information on what sites have a link to ours. It is therefore excellent for discovering backlinks, and we should definitely use it. Everything we have presented so far has to do with on-site SEO. In other words, all the things we have discussed regarding our website's structure in order to rank high in Google's search results. Optimizing our site's code, speed, and content is like building a house, digging deep and laying the foundation on a rock. While we also need to build the rest of the house, having strong foundations ensures that the rest of our work will be easier and yield better results. Having completed all these tasks, we can now move to off-site SEO. By off-site SEO, we are referring to all the actions we need to do to improve the ranking of our site within search engine results pages, SERPs, which are taken outside of our site itself. Link building is the process of acquiring links from other websites. The most important factor used by search engines to evaluate a site is the number of links our site has from other websites. The process of creating these links is called link building. Search engines treat links as votes for popularity and importance amongst websites. Using links, search engines do not only know how popular a website is, based on the number and popularity of pages linking to it, but also calculate metrics like trust, spam, and authority. Trustworthy sites tend to link to other trusted sites, while spammy sites receive very few links from trusted sources. Think of it like this. In order for someone to put a link to another page on another site, she must believe that the content of this website is valuable and useful to visitors of her own site. In a way, she gives a vote of confidence to the website she links to. The more votes of confidence one site has, the more important and trustworthy it is considered by the search engines. What must be emphasized, of course, is this. Too many people have tried, and continue to try, to fool Google by using link building. This means that they apply various techniques to create unnatural links to their site. Naturally, Google's engineers are aware of this and have accordingly regulated Google's algorithms to easily identify all these tricks. Additionally, there is a risk that Google may enforce a punishment that will make sure a site does not appear at all in the search results. So before trying to create artificial links to your site, you should be sure that is something that Google approves of. Therefore, we suggest you always aim to acquire genuine links to your site. Both Google and the other search engines assess the quality of links to a site more than the quantity. In other words, it is preferable to have a link from a good and reliable site than 100 links from a poor quality site that only aims to sell links. In other words, all links do not have the same value. Some have great importance, some less, and some not at all, and may even do damage to a site. Therefore, we need to consider the quality of a website when we get a link from it, as it may have even a negative impact. The more links there are to a site, the more important it is considered by search engines. Take, for example, the site of the White House. Because many other sites have links to it, Google and other search engines understand that it is probably not only a popular site, but also a trustworthy one. Therefore, a link from the White House site is really important. The same goes for any government site. Without it being an absolute rule, the content of a website is an important factor in how much weight Google gives to a link. If you have a pet shop, to get a link from the site of a magazine for dogs is much more important than it would be if the same magazine was based around the subject of bodybuilding. Nevertheless, even links from websites with totally unrelated subjects to our own are useful. They just do not count as much as from relevant websites. To create links to your site is not something simple. Usually they are undertaken by specialized SEO companies. Yet here are some methods that you may find quite useful. Nowadays, more and more people have a website. We can take advantage of this fact and ask friends to put a link to our site. Of course, it would be wise for us not to put a link back to theirs, because then Google will understand that this is an exchange of links and we will not achieve anything other than perhaps a penalty from Google. Of course, the question is this: how can a site that is about, for example, commercial fishing, link to a site about shoes? There are many ways. Firstly, many sites have a page titled Useful Links that do exactly this job: publish links to other sites. If there is no such page, we can ask the site to put a link to any of the images on their site. There, the link to our page will not appear, but Google will still be able to see it. If none of the above methods can be used, you can find a page that may not be as visible on your friend's site. For example, the Terms of Use page. There we can usually put a link in some place, as this page is not visited by many people. Caution: do not create links to dots or exclamation points. Do not add links to invisible text or a text that is the same color as the background of the page. These are tricks that Google is well aware of and does not like them at all. It will do more harm to your site than good. Link directories are websites which have lists of links to other websites. They were very popular in the early days of the internet, when there were no search engines. As we can imagine, the use of link directories following the creation of search engines began to wane, and they are not used much anymore. Nevertheless, some are still around to this day. Although search engines do not give them much weight, they are still useful because they can provide us with many links, effortlessly and, more importantly, for free. All you have to do is a Google search for link directories. In the results that you find, start entering your site. Gradually, you will get a very large number of links to your page with literally zero cost. Each company deals with many other companies, either as their client or as their supplier. It is likely that these companies will have their own site. Therefore, you can ask them to include your site in the list of their customers or suppliers. Even if you do not have a relevant page that includes their suppliers or their customers, you can always ask them to create one or just place a link somewhere in their site. Many charities have pages with links to the companies that have made a donation to their cause. Contact these organizations and ask how much you should donate in order for them to link to your site. With a little negotiation, you can achieve excellent results with a relatively low budget. Tip: also, instead of donating money, you can donate some of your company's products or services if they need them. Therefore, the cost of these links can be even lower. Although not exactly part of SEO, the Google My Business service is a valuable tool for our business. At first glance, Google My Business is just the page of our company on Google+. In reality, however, it is much more. Through Google My Business, we can do the following: register all information relevant to our business to appear automatically in the search engines. These entries may include contact information, descriptions of business, hours of operation, and a link to our website. This is the information that Google will display on the right side of the search when someone is looking for us. Moreover, our company will now appear in Google Maps. We can also add photos of our company and products, our staff, information about our clientele, etc. It is, in other words, a communication point with our clients that works alongside our website, but gives us a much better presence in the Google search results. Google My Business complements our site, giving our business a public presence on Google. To use Google My Business, you need to have a Google account. If you already have a Gmail account or an account to another Google service, then connect to this account. Otherwise, you should register at. After you complete the registration process, go to the address. Here we should check if our company has already been registered. Let us assume that the company or shop is called Acme Multinational. Enter the name in the top left and click the magnifying glass. Google will then offer us some suggestions. Chances are that our company will not be registered. On the other hand, it is possible that any of the companies which we work with, or even someone who has used our services and our products, may have made an entry for our company. In this case, we should contact Google for instructions by going to this URL. Since in our example case the company is not real, we won't see it listed in the menu, so we click. Then we will be prompted to enter some details for our business. Make sure you enter an accurate, complete street address and a phone number which reaches your business directly. Then confirm that the information entered is correct and proceed by clicking Submit. The following screen is probably the most important. Here we ask Google to confirm that there is indeed a business at the location point and that we are entitled to make entries for it. To do this, Google will send by post to our address a card with a code. Once we receive this code, we need to register it to confirm that this business is ours. What you should do then is to fill in all the information about the time your business is open, upload related photos, as professional as possible, enter the URL of your site, etc. Attention! After filling in the address of your site, you will be given the opportunity to confirm that indeed you are the administrator of this site. You will see the option Connect Site. Be sure to connect your website to Google My Business before you confirm with the card that comes in the mail. Otherwise, this option will be removed and you will not be able to connect your site.